So feel free, Rachel, Jen, if you want to introduce yourselves.
I'll go. So hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Frick, and I work with the Tepper undergraduate students as their career consultant.
And hello, everyone. I am Rachel Rosenfeld, and I am one of the career consultants for Mellon College of Science. Thanks for coming today.
Great. So thank you both, Rachel, Jen. So for this particular session, it'll be about 30 minutes long. We want to be conscious of your busy schedules and class schedules and commitments. So throughout the conversation, we do have pre-planned questions that we will use to help facilitate the conversation, but you too can also include your questions specifically to the panelists in the chat box. So Jen and Rachel will help me monitor the chat questions that you may have along the way. But a pretty quick session we'll go through in about 30 minutes, and hopefully this will be good for preparing you for the upcoming job fair and the recruiting cycle in general. So first and foremost, we should go ahead and introduce our panelists here today. We have three. First, I'll introduce Erin Casey, who's a campus recruiter for Chewy. We also have Kim Hall, who's a senior recruiter at Niche. And we also have Tiffany Campbell, who's a senior talent acquisition manager with Reynolds American. So at this point, Erin, Kim, Tiffany, I'll go ahead and allow you to introduce yourself, maybe how long you've been with the role and what specifically you recruit for. So Erin, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Erin Casey. I'm one of the campus recruiters at Chewy. I've been with Chewy since last November, so coming up on almost 1 year here. It really has flown by, but I hire specifically for our software engineers in our Boston office. So that includes full-time and internship positions, thinking back-end and full-stack software engineers, and then one-off technology positions as well, data warehouse engineers. We have other campus recruiters who also focus on the business side, primarily going to be in our Dania Beach office, which is right outside Fort Lauderdale. I'm happy to connect with anybody after, and we will be at the career fair next Tuesday, so happy to connect with anybody then as well.
Great, thank you, Erin. And Kim, go ahead and introduce yourself, excuse me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Hall. I'm a senior recruiter, as Joe mentioned, at Niche. I have been with the company for just about a year. I'm going to hit my 1 year anniversary in a couple of weeks. Prior to that, I was in campus recruiting across several large organizations like Comcast NBCU, Alcoa Arconic, and also Dick's Sporting Goods here in Pittsburgh. So I recruit for everything at Niche. I am the only recruiter at the organization, and I take care of it all. So from software engineering to sales to marketing to analytics, it all falls under me. So I'm the first recruiter the company's ever hired, and it's been a really exciting time of growth at the organization. And most of you, or many of you, may have even used the tool whenever you were sort of doing your college search, and young talent is something that we definitely look for at Niche. Still up in the air on whether or not we'll be at the career fair next week. I'm just having some conversations about campus recruitment, but I'm definitely open to connecting after this event.
Great, thank you, Kim. And Tiffany, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Tiffany Campbell. I'm the Senior Talent Acquisition Manager with Reynolds. So my team is responsible for all of the recruiting efforts across our early career offerings. That falls into 3 specific areas. 1 is our summer internship program, 2 being our global graduate management trainee program, and 3rd being our entry-level opportunities. I've been with Reynolds a little over a year. I came in last July. I came from Johnson & Johnson. So prior to Johnson & Johnson, I worked for some pretty large recognizable brands. So before spending time with Johnson & Johnson, I spent time with PricewaterhouseCoopers, Coca-Cola, Home Depot. So next year will be year 20 for me. So out of undergrad into the amazing industry of human resources. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you all about any of our opportunities that we have across a multitude of functions, anywhere from IT to engineering, finance, HR, of course. We have marketing, insights, and intelligence. So just a variety of opportunities that we have with Reynolds. So I believe we are going to be attending the career fair next week, but as Kim mentioned, if for some reason I am not, or someone from my team is not, definitely feel free to connect with me via LinkedIn.
Great. Well, thank you to the three of you. And for those who are just joining, we do have prepared questions that we'll use to help initiate the conversation. But throughout the conversation, feel free to put your own personal questions in the chat box as we go through. So to start us off with our questions, we will direct these to one or two recruiters, depending on how much time we have. So not every panelist will have a chance to respond to each question, but we'll make sure to do targeted responses for the questions. So to start off the conversation, I'll launch our first one. And specifically, we know that employers may value different skills depending on the job function or industry. And you all are coming from various industries specifically. So in general, with that in mind, what skills do you think are most desired by hiring managers or as a recruiter? So Erin, I'll let you kind of tackle that first question. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I think everybody's going to desire something differently, and I'll speak specifically from a technology perspective of what we're looking for at Chewy, just because that's what I hire for. But we're really looking for I think at the end of the day, like a passion for what it is that you do. So I think, you know, if you want to be a software engineer at Chewy, we're really looking for a passion for technology and for that to come through in the interview process. I think specifically for our software engineering roles, we primarily use Java as a back-end tool and then JavaScript on the front-end side. So, you know, obviously we are looking for those tangible skills, but we really want your personality to come through in the interview process. And I think that's going to be really important in a virtual setting as well. So really to be able to speak, you know, clearly about what it is that you've done and why it is that you're interested in this position. You know, especially at our internship levels, you know, they're training opportunities for you. So we're not really looking for, you know, you to have all of the skills necessary. You know, we're not evaluating you as a full-time engineer. We have the ability to train and mentor and coach, but we really want you to kind of fit in with the culture of Chewy, and that really comes back to the passion for technology.
Great, thank you so much, Erin. And to kind of build off of that question, I'll direct this question towards Kim. As a follow-up, what experience sources, quote unquote, do you think are most valued by employers? So what I mean by that, do clubs versus internships matter most, or can experience come from projects? Are those experience sources equally valued as long as they're relevant to what you need? What's kind of your overall thought, Kim, on that process?
I think a lot depends whether or not you're searching for full-time or for internship. For internship, we realize that you may not have had, you know, previous work experience in the setting that you're going for. So specific school projects that outline your technical abilities or work that you may be doing in the actual internship setting are very important, not only for an internship, but also at a potential full-time, you know, full-time job search as well. Research experience can also be super valuable in those settings where maybe you haven't had the ability to, you know, gain internship or previous applicable work experience. Clubs are definitely important, especially if you have leadership opportunities within them and showing that you haven't just like gone to a meeting and said that you're a member of a club, but you've been actively involved and been, you know, a vital part of, you know, maybe this initiative or this committee or something like that. When it comes to the full-time search, I would say internship experience that is applicable to, you know, the work that you are looking to do is definitely very, very valuable and something that most companies will be looking for in a full-time employee. Like I said, at that internship level, projects, research, you know, those types of things are equally valuable. And I will say that often companies are looking for, back to Erin's point, not just, you know, the technical skills or the skills that you can bring to the table, but there's got to be that kind of like X factor, especially in a virtual environment, that you can bring, whether it's the passion, which comes through like leadership opportunities, club involvement. Those types of things are very, very important as you're recruiting on campus and that you can bring to the table. The one last thing that I'll say is don't be shy on putting you know, work that maybe you don't think fits, and just putting it in the fact that you've had a job before, whether it's like bussing tables or owning your lawn service, those are actually all very valuable things. You know, when you've done retail, that shows that you have good customer experience skills and that you can talk to different types of people. Waiting tables is difficult. Bussing in a restaurant environment is stressful. That all can be parlayed into showing that you have applicable skills to going into a full-time job. So I would say don't like not put that experience on there, maybe not give it as much emphasis as things that are relatable to the job that you're applying for, but don't like downplay those skills as well. So
Great. And that's a great point. I completely agree. I see so many resumes where students may not feel as though their Starbucks position or their restaurant position is relevant, but it really is, because those are really tough roles. You are dealing with high volume customers and attention to detail. So I'm very much in agreement with that. I think those skill sets are very transferable to any job you're going to be working for. And Tiffany, any kind of additional points you wanted to add to those comments about what sources you look for or most value?
The one where we always have, are you on mute? And I was at that point. So first, the question that Erin answered, right? I think there's lots of value and potential in candidates beyond what we see on a resume. And some of the things that I can speak to when it comes to the Reynolds organization comes from things that you can portray during a virtual interview in the world that we're in now. And some of those things are definitely going to be ones that we may not see until you actually show up on day one. For us, there are going to be some skill sets, some knowledges, absolutely some capabilities that you're going to need to know depending on the function. Across the board, I would say some of the things that we look for in our applicants are going to be leadership skills, ability to collaborate. We are a very highly collaborative organization, whether it's within our U.S. market or globally. And then also being coachable. And I think I heard someone talk about being coachable, being someone that we can pour into and develop, especially when you're coming in as an intern. You may not have a lot of professional, relevant work experience. However, if you've done some key projects, or even if you've had some part-time and full-time positions where you can pull some applicable experience from, as Kim mentioned, I think it's important to highlight that either in your resume or in your cover letter. But then, like I said, those top three things are definitely going to be key when we're looking for applicants across any of our functions. Being a leader, being collaborative, and then also being coachable.
Mm-hmm. All right. No, thank you for those responses. Definitely agree. Great points overall. Now, thinking more broadly about the hiring process, oftentimes when you click apply for an online job posting, sometimes it can feel a little helpless, wondering what you could do more to increase your chances, or hoping that somebody will eventually respond to your great resume. So in that moment, what additional things could we do as students to really stand out in the job process? And I'll direct that to Erin.
And there I am. I'm doing it. I did it too. Sometimes my mouse doesn't want to go all the way there. So I think part of the application process for us is definitely about being responsive. I think it's a really exciting time for a lot of students, and students can be blasting out a lot of resumes. And, part of our process, we try to move really quickly to be advantageous to the students who are out there, applying for a lot of roles. So I think being really close to the process and remembering what it is that you've applied for. So for example, here at Chewy, we have a Java assessment that students will need to pass in order to move in through the process. And those that take the test right away and are really on top of the ball is going to be really helpful for them in showing their interest and engagement in the position. Because, applying is only the first step. You have to pass the assessment. You need to move through the process and the interviews. And so I think especially in the virtual environment, as much flexibility or partnership you can have with the recruiter that you work for is going to be really important. And it's really just going to show your continued interest in, why Chewy. I think that's something that's really important to us is, why are you interested in a position at Chewy versus niche versus Reynolds? And I think if you show that excitement and enthusiasm throughout the process, that's really going to help.
Great. Thank you so much, Erin. And for Kim, too, from your perspective, the same question. In what ways would you encourage a student to stand out in the hiring process, or how does that look from your end?
Yeah, the first is to take notice of when the company is going to be on campus and make sure that you're showing up to those events. The more that we see your face and the more that we have an opportunity to meet you, the more interest that we know, so that when we're rifling through the large stack of resumes and applications that we get, we'll see your name and recognize you and remember that you're somebody who's shown genuine interest in working for the company. Another thing is LinkedIn is a great resource. Don't be afraid if you haven't met somebody on campus or a company that you're looking to work with. do a little search, find a recruiter, find an alumni who works there. You would be amazed at how many alumni connections are willing just to have a brief conversation. And then that person will get then transferred over to the right contact in recruitment for opportunity. So don't be afraid to use LinkedIn. The one thing that I will say is that as you're doing your search, to be careful to attention to detail. To Erin's point, people are often blasting out a lot of applications, a lot of resumes, and I cannot tell you the number of times somebody has sent me something with the wrong name, an introduction or the wrong company involved, and that is automatically kind of like well, I'll take a look at you, but like if you're just, kind of copying and pasting and not paying attention, how interested are you really in working for our organization? So just attention to detail there is when you are trying to do that level of networking, just being careful on that side. But LinkedIn is definitely your friend. Create a profile, make it, as descriptive as your resume, upload your resume to it, and then start reaching out to people to make those connections at companies you're really interested in working for, and do the networking on campus that you can as well.
Right, thank you, Kim. And that's a great point too about visibility. In fact, for all the students on the call right now in Handshake under the Events tab, as well as the Fairs tab, you can see all the virtual sessions and opportunities that employers are offering. So oftentimes the employers who are going to the TOC and Compass Job Fair, they may also be doing a separate virtual session for their company specifically. So as Kim noted, making sure to try to attend the job fair, but also their personalized, individualized session is a great way to stand out. So really that whole cycle, all those touch points for making yourself visible. So again, that's under the Events tab in Handshake, as well as the Fair tab you can look at too. All right, so for our next question, this is kind of a broader question. We know that many students' summer 2020 plans were impacted by COVID-19, whether their internship was canceled or changed. So that said, how can students best position themselves for job search success moving forward, whether it was delayed or canceled altogether? So what do you think about positioning yourself forward? And I'll direct this to Tiffany.
Yeah, so I think moving forward, right, you definitely want to build off of what has been some of those key interviewing recruitment sort of techniques that you use in the past. Even though we've moved in a new way of recruiting and how we engage with individuals, I don't think that it's a complete pivot away from those things that you've been great in, that you've been doing, that have landed you those part-time or full-time jobs, or those key skills and technologies that are technologies that you've been able to use in either research projects or projects that you've done from your academia. So I think the one I will say to students, although we've changed in how we go to recruit and how we engage with you guys, those key things that you've been able to do. So as Kim mentioned, staying engaged with employers that come on campus, making sure, like Erin mentioned, that you really are highlighting yourself beyond the resume when you have those opportunities. Those things haven't shifted or pivoted, even though we're moving into what has become the new norm. I will say, to add on to both Erin's and Kim's points from before, yes, it's important to engage with organizations when they come to campus and to connect with them on LinkedIn, but make sure those are valuable connections, right? Make sure that they're fit for purpose. So I wouldn't connect with 500 people on LinkedIn because I know they work at 500 different organizations and I'm really trying to nail a summer internship for next year. So I would make sure, again, that they're meaningful, they're valuable. I also wouldn't spend a ton of time when I go to career fairs circling around and visiting every single booth, going to every single info session. You're going to be Zoom fatigued by the fourth one because they're all virtual. The second career fair, you're really not going to show up as your best because you've already done a ton of info sessions, a ton of career fairs. So I would say make sure that they make sense, that they are fit for purpose, and that they're meaningful engagements as you look to engage with organizations either virtually, if for some reason they are doing something on campus there as well, and then also as you look to make connections via different social media platforms.
Great. Thank you, Tiffany. Very thorough. Appreciate it. So we have one more prepared question, and at that point, after this question, we'll open it to the general group of students who may have their own curiosities and questions as well. So for our final prepared question, I wanted to turn it more towards the future. So given the pandemic and the change in job market, what skills do you predict will be needed for success in the future? And I'll turn this to Erin to explain an answer for this one.
Awesome. So I think I had said this to all of our interns. Our internship was remote this summer. And I said, obviously this is not the summer that any of us had anticipated. We weren't able to bring you on site and have lunch and all those sort of things. But you really do have an opportunity to market this virtual experience that you've had to your advantage. I think a lot of companies are going to shift to a more virtual environment permanently. So for example, at Chewy, we never had a formal work from home policy. We've been remote since March now. I'm anticipating that will change in the future. So if you've had a virtual internship, a virtual co-op, whatever it may be, it's really important to market that on your resume. I've been reviewing some resumes and people have supposed to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, bucket remote. That's super marketable if you have the ability and experience of working from home for an extended period of time, because when we go out and hire, and if we are still in a remote environment, that's going to be really important. So I would just say, marketing your experiences in a virtual setting, and that even extends to the classroom as well. If you didn't have an internship this summer, or unfortunately it was canceled, but you were remote since March for school, and maybe you're remote this fall as well, it's really important to talk about that and the success that you've seen in it, and how you potentially, see value in that moving forward as well.
Great, thank you so much, Erin. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our formal questions. So we now want to open it to the group of students. So for our remaining time, please do put in your questions and comments in the chat box. We do have our first question to the group. How do you get over being intimidated with networking and talking to employers? And I agree, that can be a pretty nerve-wracking and stressful situation and task to have to do. So whether it's going in person to an event or even through a virtual fair, how do you work up that courage to be more confident in the networking? So Kim, I'll turn it to you about that.
So I would say that people who go on campus are some of the friendliest and most outgoing people that we have within our recruiting and our employment workforce. And many of the people that we bring with us who are representatives from the company who work in the jobs that you would be doing are probably only out of school a few years. Many of the times we try to bring recent college grads along with us. So it's a great experience for them because they talk about how nerve-wracking it was, and it's like refreshing for them to be able to be on the other side of the table and kind of take that layer of nerves away from the other person because they've been there so recently. So I would say don't be intimidated, that the people that you're going to be talking to are there because they want to be there, because they want to help you. No matter the prestige of the company, we're all there for a reason, and the reason is to chat and get to know you better. So don't be intimidated or nervous coming up to all of us, and we all can empathize with what you're going through. So it's easy for us to kind of hopefully to get you over that edge of nerves. And if you are super, super nervous, maybe the best thing to do is maybe go to one of those companies that is a little bit lower on your list, get your nerves out, do your elevator pitch a few times. And then when you feel really, really comfortable, then go to the companies that are higher priority on your list. And then, you really have those nerves shaken out to speak to that organization.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear you say that, Kim, because I usually recommend the same thing. And I'm always a little weary about saying so, to actually go and practice on a recruiter who may not be your initial top priority, which that's okay as long as you're being genuine and
Right.
informative. That can really help you get the nerves out of the way before going to that key employer you want to talk to. So that's really great advice.
The other thing is, sorry to interrupt, is just that
Sure.
you may actually find a great connection at that company that might have been,
Right.
and you might find that that's a wonderful opportunity too. So it could turn into something great.
Right.
So
Okay.
we have a question in the chat. So this is what about the canceled opportunity or internship? Is that okay to put on a resume or a cover letter or material like that so that employers can see it?
I probably would not put it on my resume, but I would speak to it if given the opportunity. And I say that because a resume, when you provide a title or what you've done, or a title in the organization, most recruiters are going to be looking for, okay, what are those 3 to 6 bullet points of actionable, tangible items that we can say that you can speak to during the interview process. You won't have those 3 to 6 bullet points because you didn't get to go through the internship. But I would say I would speak to it and then just leave it at that. I would not encourage individuals to put just a one-liner of an internship being canceled on their resume. I don't know if Erin or Kim feel indifferent about that one.
It could be something to include in a cover letter, but back to, you know, if it was canceled, being able to talk to what did you do with that time in the meantime. So I think that that's something super valuable that a lot of you who may have had a canceled internship or even a full-time job offer that might be coming to the career fair as an alumni can talk about what you've done with that time. Did you do additional training? Did you take some classes through, you know, Linda or Udemy or, you know, Code Academy or something like that? What have you done with that time? And I think that that can really show initiative and drive to show what you've been able to do when that opportunity didn't pan out for you. Resilience is a huge thing, especially now as we're all working virtually.
Great. And we had another great question from our viewers here, specifically, if we're trying to find internships or jobs that aren't primarily looking for students, or that are primarily looking for students in a different major than our own, how do you recommend advertising ourselves so we are not automatically eliminated because our major doesn't match the criteria? So what do you think about that?
I would probably say it's about including information that lends itself to what it is that you're interested in. So if your major is art history, but you want to pivot to computer science, you know, what classes are you taking that lend itself to that? You know, what experience do you have that, you know, will push you more towards the computer science realm versus the art history? You know, are you doing anything on the side? Are you in any computer science clubs? Have you participated in hackathons? Things like that I think is really important. You know, I think major is relevant to some degree, but what you do with it and what other experiences you have are going to be super relevant. I was a history major and now I'm recruiting for software engineers. So like your major doesn't mean everything, but it's what other, you know, soft skills you have and or, you know, experiences that lend itself to that.
Okay, great. Okay, looks like we have time maybe for one more question. Let's see here. Which activities, oh, I lost it, 1 second.
Yeah.
Which activities are most appealing in a software development candidate? So hackathons, club activities, competitions, research. Is there anything in particular, maybe for Kim, that you look for, or is it mostly about, you know, skill sets versus the source of experience?
I definitely think that skill set is important, but I do like to see activity outside of what you've done in the classroom because it shows that you're taking it to the next level and applying, because like you only get so much out of your classroom activity, right? So going to a hackathon, doing research, doing outside learning, or maybe doing a project is more relatable sometimes to real world experience or real work experience. So doing those additional things can be super, super helpful and highlighting them on a resume to show that you can take the things that you've learned in the classroom and then apply them in a broader sense.
Okay. Yeah, and that's great advice, you know, too, because typically if you are competing with students who generally have the same skill sets for software engineering, you definitely would need ways to maybe look unique or different. So maybe that is the research or the club leadership role that you had. So that's really great advice. So that kind of brings us to our time. We greatly appreciate all the information and the advice. I know that went pretty quickly, more quickly than what we would prefer, but we appreciate you joining anyway. So before we go, Erin, Kim, Tiffany, what do you recommend if students want to reach out to you further? Should they find you on LinkedIn or email you directly? What do you think?
I would say LinkedIn.
Oh,
I get a lot of connections via LinkedIn, and it allows me to dig a little bit deeper, and that way I can go on, look at their profile, answer specific questions. So definitely find and connect with me via LinkedIn.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tiffany. That was Tiffany at Reynolds. Feel free to connect with Tiffany on LinkedIn. How about you, Erin? What do you prefer?
I would say LinkedIn would be preferred as well. My inbox is a little bit crazy in this virtual setting, so I think LinkedIn would be the most preferred method. But again, we will be at the Encompass Career Fair on Tuesday, myself as well as a few engineers. So if you do have any specific questions, we definitely encourage you to reach out to us then as well.
Great, thank you. And Kim, what do you prefer as well?
Yeah, LinkedIn is great for me as well. You can also get connected to us through our social media. We have a great Instagram account, so feel free to hop on there. But for me personally, LinkedIn. And then I know the team also does a great job of connecting us to especially interested students and giving out our information as needed. So.
Great. All right, well, thank you to everyone so much for attending today. If you have more questions, feel free to contact Jen, Rachel, or myself with specific job fair prep questions or about this session in particular. Wishing you the best of luck with the recruiting season. Let us know how we can help. All right, take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you to our panelists.
Bye, everyone.